everybody. Welcome back to Valley of the Mist Block of the Month. I'm Adriane Ritter.
And I'm Shelley McNeely.
And this is our July 2026 Block of the Month. And continuing our flower block theme for the year, this month, we're doing a cone flower. So Shelley, tell us what fabric we need.
Okay, so if you're going to turn in your block for the drawing at the guild meeting, you're going to need the focus fabric we're using this year. And this is Banyan Batiks Kaleidoscope Line. So if you aren't turning it in, you can use whatever you want instead of the focus fabric. But in the blocks, you get to use your focus fabric anywhere you want. And any fabric that you choose for the flowers is up to you. Background, flower color, leaves, any of it's up to you. Just need a piece of the focus fabric at least somewhere in the block when you turn it in. Okay, so for this particular block, for the background fabric, you need one that is 1 by 12.5, two that are 1 by 5.5, two that are 1 by 4.5, two that are 2.5 by 3.5, four that are 1.25 by 3.5, two that are 3.25 by 8, one that is 3-inch square, which is for a half square triangle, 8 1-inch squares, 2 4-inch squares that are also for half square triangles. Then for flower 1, you're going to need one that is 1 by 2.5. Then for flower 2, you're going to need two that are 2.5 by 3.5, one that is 1 by 4.5, one that is 3-inch square, which is for a half square triangle, and then two that are 1.5 by 2.5. Then for the stem, you're going to need one that is 1 by 8. Then for
And the two 1-inch squares.
and then the two 1-inch squares. Then for the leaves, you're going to need two 4-inch squares that are half square triangles, and that's what you need.
That's all we need. Now we have the fabric. So, like we've been doing this year, we're going to accomplish the fiddly little things first. So the first thing we're going to do is make our half square triangles.
Right.
And so we need the one square of white that is 3.5.
That's 3-inch.
3-inch, and there's a corresponding piece of the flower 2 fabric that's also that size, and then you're going to need the 4-inch squares of leaf fabric and background for the leaves.
Right.
Okay, so to make the half square triangles, oh man, my thing is really full of thread there. The first thing you do is one of two things. You either draw a single line on one diagonal each square, or you do like Shelley does, and she draws two diagonal lines. Each one is a 1/4 inch away from that diagonal, the center diagonal.
And that's what I sew on.
So then you sew basically a 1/4 inch away from the diagonal. Either you're sewing on lines like Shelley, or you're sewing just a 1/4 inch away from that center line. Cut on that diagonal line, press the seams open, then we trim to the correct size. For the leaf pieces, after you cut them into 2 on the diagonal line, you need to trim them to 3.5 inches. And for the flower, you need to trim them to 2.5 inches. So I'm going to quickly explain the trimming. After you have a piece that looks something like this, but maybe is not the exact correct size, and it will have little flaggy pieces at either end of the diagonal, you first trim just 2 edges so they're neat and tidy. And you turn it around, and you do that by putting a ruler with a 45-degree on the diagonal line. Trim that corner, turn around, put that 45-degree line back on top of that diagonal line separating the 2 colors, and you line the bottom trimmed neat edge with the size that you're supposed to make it, and then trim off the extra at the top of the other 2 edges. Okay, so we're just going to make those 3 sets of half square triangles, and then we'll be back. All right, step 1 finished.
Yes.
And I have my leaves arranged as they should be, and I kind of have my flower pieces up here. So Shelley, what are we going to do next?
Now we're going to put our flippy corners on. This is not hard. They're all the same size. All your 1-inch pieces is what you're going to need. The backgrounds and the ones that are from your stem, you need all those. And this is how it's going to go. The piece that's, this is the one that's 1 by 4.5 of the flower piece 2. You can put flippies on either corner.
And they put them aiming out the same way, opposite, because if you put them on the bottom or the top, it doesn't matter because you can just turn the piece around.
Right. Okay, and then on the pieces that are, I believe, 1.5, these 1.5 by, what are they?
2.5.
What? Okay. Flower 2.5 by, no.
Bottom one.
Oh, 1.5 by 2.5, sorry.
She doesn't believe me.
I know.
The two pieces that are 2.5 by 3.5. On the shorter side, you're going to put a stem or leaf piece on one corner, and you're going to put a background on the other. And on the other one, you're going to do it on the same short side, but on the opposite sides, so that the greens will come together, or whatever your stem color is, and then the backgrounds. And on the other two pieces, you're going to just put 2 on 2 of that longer side.
Right.
And they'll be fine because we can turn them around. If you put them on the top, it becomes the bottom.
That's true. It doesn't matter either.
Yeah.
Just the short side.
Yeah. So back to how you do a flippy corner or I already forgot what it's called.
I know.
Stitch
and flip.
Stitch and flip. Yeah, maybe. Okay. So you've drawn a diagonal line on your piece that you're adding. And remember, you're adding a color to this block, but you're not changing the size of the piece. So this piece starts at 1.5 by 2.5, and at the end it needs to be 1.5 by 2.5. So you draw a line on the piece you're adding, and on the diagonal, and you're going to sew just to the outside of that line, like 1 stitch. So it makes this other part that you're going to fold over a little bit bigger just to make sure it fits. And then you're going to take, and after you sew it, you're going to fold it over, look at it, does it fit? If it does, let it flop back, then trim that to a 1/4 inch seam. And then you're going to press it, you're going to press it later. So you're going to do those on each of those corners, and double check them that they go back to the right size piece. I always, Shelley's are pretty much right.
I always check. If anything, I try to make it too big.
I know, but you said on the last month that you didn't trim yours. I trimmed all mine. I always go and put them and check them, and I make sure they're nice and pretty and trimmed and exactly the same size piece that I started with.
Right.
So we're going to do that, and then
I would suggest after that, because you're going to have everything essentially the size we need it. Put it on a board, or somehow arrange all your pieces, because some of these background pieces are similar sizes, so it'd be easier.
And I do apologize. My cone piece, my centerpiece is yellow, and I have it sitting kind of on a background piece because it's kind of hard to see at this point until I sew something around it.
Right.
But, anyway.
We'll try to say what size it is when we're assembling it, but in case we get it wrong, try and have it where it should be.
Well, they may have
on the picture. Based on the picture.
As best you can. They may have them in the wrong place, but we'll fix it.
Right.
Okay. Okay, so we have all of those little stitch and flippy corners on. I didn't have any problem.
I did.
Shelley sewed them on the wrong side.
I did.
just 2 of them.
Yeah. I turned my
4 of them.
I wasn't careful when I was just matching and sewing and not watching.
So she did some on the
long side instead of the short side.
Right. Okay, so I have my flower back up here because I want to show you. This is the part we're working on. For once, we're going to work on the flower before the leaves. So Shelley has her section up there. Mine, I put it on a blue background so you can see my yellow piece. Hopefully nothing falls off here. Okay, so we are going to sew just the rows that have flower parts in them.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you the pieces that you need. And then Shelley's going to talk about how she wants us to sew it. So the top row, these are the 1 by 5.5 inch pieces of background, and they go on either side of that flower one piece. And so you can remember the flower one piece is pretty little. These are a little longer. The next ones are 1 by 4.5, and they go on either side of the flower two piece that we put the two little flippy corners on the edge. And then the third row is the bulk of the flower, and it has these 2.5 by 3.5 pieces of background on either end. So what else are we doing here, Shelley?
Okay, so you can see how these look. That, you know, these are the ones that we just, this is the half square triangles up here. And this is the ones we put flippies on, the shorter ones on either side that are background. And these are the flower pieces that have a background in one corner and stem leaf color in the center.
And the only tricky thing is to make sure you orient those half square triangles the right direction with the bulk of the flower down and the background facing out.
Right. So now we're going to assemble this all together. Okay. So the first thing to probably make it a little bit easier, because we're going to do this by rows, is these ones that have the half square triangle and the smaller pieces have the background on either side up flippies. Sew those together. The two.
Yeah, so those two together
like
and
opposites
make them into
together.
one piece.
Right. So now you have a row. Sew that row together.
Yeah, so both of those together like that.
Right. So you have that row done. And then go to the row above it. Sew those three pieces together. Then the row above that, sew those three pieces together. And then we'll sew those three rows together.
Now, pressing. So we pretty much say if there's a triangle, you press it open. And we did that. We pressed open our half square triangles, and we pressed open our flippy corners. On this, the rows don't really intersect except for right here in this, where this one attaches to this.
Right.
But it's still a lot of triangle corners coming together. I recommend you press the seams open, but maybe, no, I would just recommend press them open because it can just be very bulky. So unless you think, oh, I just can't do that, then it's your block.
Right. Right. And so now this row, this combination, when it's done, should be, I believe, 3.5 by 12.5, because we're going to have another piece that goes on the top later,
which we'll put on the very end.
Right.
All right. So let's come back with our flower section complete, and then we will start on the leaf section. All right. So what would be one of our videos where we didn't make a mistake?
Or 2 or 3.
Yeah. So we're coming back just real quick right now before you sew together your flower sections and correcting the final size of this flower section. What should it be, Shelley?
Should be 4.5 by 12.5.
All right. So we don't want you to think it's only 3.5.
Yeah, because you'll be cutting everything off.
Yeah. All right. So go make those flower sections. All right. Our flower section is done. Boom. There it is. Let me get this out of here. Now we're going to work on the leaf part. Oh, ignore that part. That's for at the end.
That's last step.
Okay. So now we have all of our remaining pieces kind of put up there. We have the 2 leaf half square triangles on each side of the stem. They're pointing out. The leaf sections touching, and then these 4 pieces that are 1.25 by 3.5. We have one at the top and bottom of each of those rows, and then we have our last there's something by 8 inches, 3.25 by 8 inch pieces on either side. So Shelley, how are we going to sew this together?
Well, I would suggest you sew the 2 leaf pieces together on either side.
Okay.
Then sew each of those.
Press them open.
Yes, and then press them to the stem.
No. So the top and bottom one?
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. That's right. We have to fill this space in.
You have to make this 8 inches tall.
Yes. And each one of these then, of course, like you said, is 8 inches tall. Sew it to the stem. And then after you finish with that, sew these pieces to either side.
All right, and this is still a lot of pressing seams open.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of triangles coming together there.
Right.
Okay, we'll be back with our leaf section and then just one more simple step before we have our finished block. Okay. All right, so we're back with our leaf section completed. It's looking like a flower up here on the board.
Right.
Shelley, what are these difficult last instructions?
Well, okay, the leaf section needs to get sewn to the flower section.
To the bottom of the flower section.
Okay, you're right. So let's not screw that part up because we're good at screwing things up. And then we have this piece that's like 1 inch. I believe it's 1 inch.
Yeah, we said 1 inch, but measure your block after you sew these two pieces together.
And that would, I think it's going to be 12 by 12 and a half.
Yes, and if it is, then you just need this 1 inch piece. If it's smaller than that, then the difference in that size you need to add to that width.
Right.
Okay, because you need to come out with a 12.5 inch block at the end. So we're going to sew those 3 sections together and come back with our finished block. Okay, there's our finished flower. Looks great.
It does.
So this is our cone flower. Hope you have fun making it. And remember, while the blocks may not be what we call easy, they're not hard. And if it didn't take some skill, your dog would be a quilter.
And we want it to look like a flower.
We want it to look like a flower. So anyway, we will see you back here next month.